no end to the bad stories, the sad stories, the bad news next week that unfortunately is always clamoring for attention, today being no exception. But in spite of that, or maybe because of that, I decided to go 180 degrees the other way and talk about something hopeful, talk about a positive aspect to things that are happening in the world right now. And this story starts in a very extraordinarily unexpected place.
I'm using a cleansing water with a cotton pad to remove everything. My skin is going to feel purified, toned, and left feeling perfectly clean.
Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that the vast majority of the Corbett Report audience has no idea who Michelle Phan is. So I will just explain that Michelle Phan is one of the most subscribed YouTubers, 7.65 million YouTube subscribers, 1.1 billion views. She is the most popular female on the video sharing site since beginning her beauty channel in 2006. And along the way, she has also launched a beauty and media empire worth a reported $100 million and has inspired many others to follow in her footsteps. Phan says what she does isn't that special and that anyone can do what she does. It's about finding a topic that you're passionate about and can focus on. The internet has widened the market space so much. Anyone online can find their niche audience, and the idea of niche is no longer small. It can mean tens of millions of followers, she says. That's an interesting quotation, and I hope that it rings a bell, it sounds familiar to you, because I think it should. What we've done is assemble a mind-boggling amount of information into a coherent report that has been viewed by nearly 500,000 people. And all of that started from my rundown old apartment building in rural Japan. Yes, the point that I've stressed a number of different times in my work is that what I do is fundamentally nothing special. I do open source investigations, I pull together a lot of information that I find online, I hopefully put it together in a way that makes it understandable and digestible to people out there, but what I do is fundamentally not something that could be done by just about anyone who's viewing these reports in one form or another. And this is all enabled by this same technology that allows people like Michelle Phan to form $100 million business empires, basically pimping out toxic chemical crap to rub on people's faces to satisfy the Madison Avenue version of what constitutes beauty. So I certainly don't recommend that, but it's interesting that it's basically the same phenomenon, but in a wildly different context. And this is starting to creep more and more into the mainstream, not just things like Michelle Phan becoming noteworthy enough to have her own Yahoo Finance story about her, but Rothschild economist running a story like Super Fantasy, talking about Bandpage and the idea of having super fans help to fund some of these smaller bands that don't really have the huge audience of a Taylor Swift or a Radiohead to be able to thumb their nose at Spotify and the tiny royalties that bands receive there. Well, now you have this idea, well, how about super fans paying a little bit extra to see a special engagement with the band or to meet and greet with the band? Again, I think this is another sign that the peer-to-peer economy that we've talked about here on the podcast before is becoming mainstream. In fact, one of the best examples of that is Investopedia.com now has an entry for P2P economy. A peer-to-peer or P2P economy is a decentralized model whereby two individuals interact to buy or sell goods and services directly with each other, without intermediation by a third party or without the use of a company of business. The buyer and the seller transact directly with each other. Because of this, the producer owns both their tools or means of production and their finished product. So this is really becoming mainstream at this point and is becoming more and more a fact of everyday life in many various ways. Now, there, I suppose, are two ways that this can go. It can be just turned into another place to basically replicate the current economy, and of course that's what is going to be hawked and pimped in the pages of Yahoo Finance and The Economist and publications like that. Or we can make this what it really fundamentally is, as Investopedia notes, it's a cutting out of the middleman. A complete unnecessary step has been removed from the entire process of manufacturing or selling services, which is this middleman entity, which of course is usually some sort of bank or corporation or something, getting in between the people doing the work and the people benefiting from that work. What does that actually mean? It means that almost without exception, anything that you're interested in can now actually be something that you engage in professionally, in quotation marks, not professionally in any sort of licensed or accredited sense, but you can actually engage in it as a means of making money, of expanding your horizons of what you're doing. There's examples of this all over the place. If you're into music, for example, there's sites like bandcamp.com where you can not only stream your music, but you can sell the music downloads or vinyl, or you can have links to all of your social media and start to create that super fan base that will hopefully support your work directly rather than supporting your work indirectly through Spotify or through some record label or something like that. If you're into 3D modeling, you can create your own 3D designs and upload them to something like Shapeways. People will come, see something they like, maybe a piece of jewelry or a piece of art or a gadget or a doodad for sitting on their desk, and they'll purchase it, they'll download the design, and then they will print it out on their own 3D printer and have your design sitting there on their desk. Just phenomenal things that are happening. If you have the ability to do general services, maybe you can help someone move, or you're a handyman, you can help people repair things, you can do errands or tasks like that. You can sign up to TaskRabbit and people can start hiring your services directly from you. If you're into food and cooking, you can become a caterer and you can post your menu onto Easy Cater and have hopefully spread by word of mouth if you're any good at it, and build a business that way. There's a billion ways to do this, and the best part of it is if you're uncomfortable with the idea of just replicating the current business model and you don't want to form a $100 million beauty and media empire, hawking that toxic garbage onto people's faces, you can participate in different ways. You could go to something like Thingiverse, where you can have that same idea as Shapeways, uploading 3D designs, but you can make them Creative Commons licensed so that people can download them, alter them, do whatever they want with them. There's, again, a million different ways this can happen. We went through a lot of them in episode 303 of the podcast, so if you haven't listened to it yet, please go back and do so. The peer-to-peer economy. If you have listened to it, please spread this word and this information to others, because again, this phenomenon is what we make of it. There is something happening right now. There is a shift that is ongoing. The economy is transitioning to a new era, and I guess we can either be part of it or we can just let it roll over top of us and crush us down into Michelle fans of the world. So if we want to create something perhaps more meaningful than simply another makeup or beauty empire, then let's take advantage of this and let's try to do something that we actually